morning. In the 25 plus years that Shirley and I have belonged to Grace Covenant, one of the things that has always impressed me about Grace Covenant is that it understands itself to be part of the broader church. Now, there are many things that we have done individually as a congregation over the years. I think of things like building homes for Habitat for Humanity, the mission trips, the raising funds for stoves for Haiti, a well for Kenya, and of course, every year at Christmas time, we host the Red Bag Project here. But last Sunday, Charlie Spencer pointed out that we are able to do more by working together than we ever can do individually as a congregation. And besides our time and talent that individual members have given to the higher governing bodies of this church, we have always met our per capita obligations. But we also do something that unfortunately not all of our member congregations do, and that is provide shared mission money. And through that shared mission money, we support missions at the presbytery, the synod, and the General Assembly levels. At the presbytery level, those shared mission dollars that we provide allow us to help the Maya Quiche Presbytery in Guatemala. Our camp is supported by shared mission dollars. We have inner city and rural congregations that could not continue to exist without shared mission. And last Sunday, many of us were able to celebrate the rehabilitation of the old Linwood Presbyterian Church. LAMP, after 20 years of hard work, is now a reality, providing a variety of services to the people of the inner city. At the national level, of course, we provide missionaries throughout the world, but we also provide mission activities here in the United States. And I think in a couple of weeks, Sarah Hayden will be talking about 1001 worshiping communities. We support military chaplains, which are very necessary and all with continuing long periods of conflict that we are involved in around the world. We also have the Presbyterian Disaster Assistance. The PDA is there to help. When the tornado leveled a Presbyterian church in Joplin, the PDA was there. When fire destroyed the Westport Presbyterian Church, it was there. When we had churches destroyed by floods in northwest Missouri, it was there. But the PDA does a lot more than just service Presbyterians. You may remember a few years ago when there was a huge tsunami in Japan, the PDA was there to help, working with other international organizations. So when I think about Grace Covenant, the thing that I think we can celebrate is that we recognize ourselves as one congregation, but part of the Church of Jesus Christ seeking to fulfill the Great Commandment.
Hello, I am Kai Townsend, and that was loud. I apologize. I have been coming to Grace Covenant since I was born, really, and there have been good days and bad days, like the time I was sick on Easter. But one of those good days was when I was 3 through 7 years old, and right before the sermon, after the kids' service, I would go downstairs with a group of other kids my age and some teachers to Awakening to Worship. And the teachers would get out this huge sandbox, at least I perceived it as huge at the time, and they would set out little wooden figures, and I think they used Jenga blocks as buildings, and marbles were thrown into the mix somewhere, and they would reenact Bible stories, and those Bible stories were some of the Bible stories I remember best, like the Good Samaritan. And while those days are good, I am looking forward to the future as well. Youth group is what I am looking forward to the most, and I hope I can enjoy that even more than I have things in the past.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Callender, and I attend Grace Covenant Presbyterian Church with my wife, Lori, my oldest daughter, Lindsay, son, Logan, and youngest daughter, Lauren. And most Sundays at this service, we can be seen sitting in that area of the sanctuary over there. I was asked to share something I love about Grace Covenant, and an easy target for me would be the music. My kids say, "Dad, you're all about music, cycling, and salads." It's true, I do like a good salad. The music here would be an easy target. I could go on and on about the music at Grace Covenant. I do love the music that is selected by the services by the various directors. I love the special music that surrounds Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all the festive Sundays that we have throughout the year. I love to hear the beautiful voices, and I love to hear the praise team, the choir, the soloists. I love to hear members of the band, instrumentalists, the handbell musicians, the pianist, and our lovely organist. I love and appreciate more than you know the unsung heroes of the church, those hardworking folks working the AV that show up before every rehearsal, every practice, and are the last ones to leave after the service. I am very sincere in saying that I am truly thankful for their commitment, their service, their dedication into the church and worship. And at this time, I want to give them an applause because I love them so much. That was impromptu, but it was heartfelt. I would like to suggest that the guitar could be just a little bit louder. But it's not the music that I want to focus on this morning. What I want to highlight is what I love most is family. And by quote-unquote family, I mean not just the immediate family, but all the children, the young adults, and the members of Grace Covenant. To illustrate my point, I've put together a slide. To illustrate my point, I want to sketch and share with you the day in the life of this father of three on any given Sunday. My alarm goes off at 6 a.m., praise team calls at 7:30, service at 8:50. Then I join the younger two kids in the Sunday school room at 10:30 for 20 minutes of music. Happy and You Know It, Five Green and Speckled Frogs are favorites, I'll tell you. We do some music and dance, and then we close with Jesus Loves Me. At 11 a.m., the youth praise band is rehearsal downstairs. At 12 noon, I take my two youngest to Bell's rehearsal. After Bell's, I head home with the younger two children. We spend a few hours at home, and we head back to the church with our oldest at 4 for Bell's and choir. I head home and then return at 6 p.m. with my son to youth group. Then I head back home a third time for the day and return to church for the last time to pick them up at 8 o'clock. All this on the Sabbath, the day of rest. So yes, the music ministry, the children's ministry, and the youth programs are wonderful. But what I love most is the impact that all of you have on my family. You have welcomed us with open and loving arms. You have shared your gifts, your times, your talents, and this brings our family closer together within the church under God. That is what I love most. Thank you, Grace Covenant.
We're Fred and Linda Sterrett. We joined the church in 1992. We're not charter members, but we're pretty close. We started visiting with our family, Courtney, Katie, and Scott, when we were still meeting in the school at Shannon Valley. So we've seen a lot of great things here, a lot of ups and downs and highs and lows. We've been here 23 years as members. Back then, this was a very young congregation. Many of you will remember that. We were raising families. We grew up together. Our kids grew up together. And now, our grandkids are growing up together. And I think that's a pretty strong statement of where we are and what this place is about. When we were young, we thought of the celebrations, and we thought of weddings and Christmas and baptisms, which were fabulous here, and the promises we made in those at all of those baptisms. And if you look around at the grandkids that are here, we've kept those promises, and I congratulate all of us for that. I want to take a moment to acknowledge, with the rest of my time here, what we feel is the greatest thing about Grace Covenant Presbyterian Church, and that is how blessed we are to have received care, concern, and prayers from you all at various moments when we needed it. And you don't really know you need it always. The first time that I recall was in 1998 when I had ACL surgery, knee surgery, and somehow I don't have any idea how Jay McKell ended up at the hospital to pray with me before I went into surgery. It's like an angel just kind of appeared. When I woke up, there was another incredible surprise. A lot of you won't be aware of this particular team. It's pretty low-key. I call it the three-legged stool team. It was a group of folks that had had knee surgery before me, and there was a stool that was passed around like a traveling trophy that you used to elevate your leg while you were recovering from surgery, and they were there to welcome me into that team. It's such a great thing that George Burris has actually gotten it twice. So, in 2008, Lynn fractured her shoulder and then had a frozen shoulder to follow that up. We, again, didn't realize, and I think many of us are like that, didn't realize that we needed help. Fortunately, Cindy Houston was better at noticing that than we were. And I will tell you, you don't know how great those meals are that many of you have prepared. Most of us have prepared for folks. You don't know how great that is until you receive those. It is better to give than receive, but let me tell you what, when this congregation throws their arms around you and takes care of you, it's a fabulous thing. In 2011, our daughter Katie was hospitalized with preeclampsia. She, Aaron, and Tegan are members of the congregation. That's the grandkid part of this. Tegan was born at 33 weeks. She was a preemie. She weighed 2 pounds, 14 ounces. She's a miracle. Again, the care, concern, and prayers overwhelmed us. Now you've probably seen her after service tearing around the sanctuary, a bundle of joy and a very joyful soul that we treasure very much. I want to thank all of you for taking care of us, and I want to thank you for letting us help take care of you. I think Linda has a memory that captures the beauty of how and why Grace Covenant Presbyterian Church works and will continue to work.
After Kathy Burris asked us to speak today, a line from one of Jay's sermons years ago popped into my head and refused to budge. It's a line that resonated with me then and resonates even more now as we enter this period of transition. What Jay said is, Jesus has no body but you. As I look out on all of you, I'm inspired. I see elders, deacons, musicians, educators, and countless volunteers devoting your time and talents to our church, to the community, and to each other. The light of Christ shines in you, and I'm inspired by you to become a better person. Yesterday, I typed, Jesus has no body but you, into my web browser, and I was surprised to find a beautiful passage written in the 16th century by Saint Teresa of Avila, a Spanish Carmelite nun, and I'd like to share that with you now. She wrote, Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands. Yours are the feet. Yours are the eyes. You are his body. Christ has no body now but yours. You, the members of Grace Covenant, are shining brightly as the body of Christ on earth. And Fred and I want you to know how proud we are to be members of this amazing church family. Happy 30th anniversary, Grace Covenant.
I told Kathy this morning I was going to be talking about the youth program, but I decided that this church is so much more than the youth program that you guys are going to get a brief history of my life in this church. I grew up here. This is where I was baptized. I was confirmed here. I only remember one sermon from my childhood. Pastor Jay on Easter talked about his melting chocolate bunny in the back of a car. That always just stayed with me for some reason. I was part of New Spirit Singers here, where I learned about the craziness of one Miss Kathy Burdett. I was confirmed in preschool one time, or Sunday school, I guess. One crazy lady who was probably actually Cindy Houston. She called me out for music makers, and my mom didn't tell me about that. So scared little, like, kindergarten me. Yeah, you can just leave that to your imagination. I played crazy games with Miles and the youth. And, you know, I joined Session this year as our senior elders. I'm part of youth team and the mission trip planning team. And this church has just given me so many opportunities. I was able to be in a musical, me, a middle school kid who can't sing or dance or act for that matter. I was able to go to Heartland every year for like 10 years or something like that. I went to Massanetta. I went on so many mission trips that they were life-changing. I was able to sing in the National Cathedral. How many people can say that? And this church has just given me so much. A lot of you might know that I'm into photography, and this church has harnessed that. A lot of the VBS pictures and mission trip pictures and all those pictures that you see, I took a lot of them. I don't have really any bad memories from this church, except for that one time at Trunk or Treat when I won a soda in the soda walk and decided I wanted soda, and it spilled all over my lap. Yeah. I mean, all of this, I never left sad after church. I might have come in like a bit of bad mood, but I'd never leave in a bad mood. I'd always leave happy. But all of this shies in comparison to the people here. I've made great friendships, lifelong friends in the youth, and so many of adults have taught me what it means not only to be a good Christian, but a good person. Shout outs to Miles, Rebecca, and my confirmation leaders, Cheryl Johnson and Aaron Weekly, and also the entire congregation, just looking out and seeing the love. You guys are so welcoming right now. I'm probably being a really bad speaker, and you guys are just like so welcoming, and that's what I love most about this church, is just the welcoming environment. So even though I'm leaving for a while when I go to college next year, I'll never really leave this church, nor will it ever leave me. I am who I am today because of it, and I've learned a couple life lessons, including have open eyes and open hearts, strive for higher ground, find your home, and God accepts me as I am. In case you guys didn't know, those were the past 4 themes of Mission Trip. One other main thing I learned: if you don't know how to start a prayer, say, "Thanks for loving us, God." Wow, I can't read my own handwriting, I'm sorry. My shirt right now is from Eminem 2 years ago. It's Finding Home, and the theme, surprise, was about finding home. I didn't need to worry about finding my home because I grew up here, and I've always known that this is my home.
As I reflect on my experience at Grace Covenant, I know one thing with absolute certainty. I have deep roots that keep me planted at GCPC, and I'm not going anywhere. But why? Well, the foremost reason is that this church is my family. And like most families, I began reflecting on our family dinners over the years. My story begins in 1989 when my parents made the tough decision to leave our hometown of St. Louis and leaving behind our huge extended family where my parents had grown up and where I was born. We left behind that family and we moved to the foreign land of Overland Park, Kansas. And little did we know, we would find a family that we would never be able to leave. Soon after that began a new season of family dinners. I remember when I was little, my parents were in charge of the 5-Star Wednesday dinners, if you remember those. We'd get together every Wednesday night and all have dinner in Heartland Hall before we broke out into various choir rehearsals. I remember our middle school New Spirit lasagna dinners, thinking it was so cool to go see the big kids in their musical. And then finally being one of those big kids, I just couldn't even believe it. I'd finally made it. Then later on, youth group dinners every Sunday night, paying my $3 to stay and have pizza or tacos. And the Thanksgiving Eve chili suppers, pancake suppers, The list goes on and on. We've sat down at the table many times together and formed quite a family. The time came when I graduated college and I was headed off to Kirksville, Missouri, and I was pretty nervous. I'm an only child and leaving my parents and leaving my friends from high school, leaving the church, and I wasn't really going to know anybody up there, and I just remember really feeling a lot of anxiety over it. But I got up to Kirksville, and within the first week, Matt Vaughn came up to Kirksville and took me out to lunch along with a bunch of youth that had graduated from Village and Grace Covenant. Later that month, I remember Meredith Turner, Cabe now, and Rachel Maddox came up to visit me, and we went over to Emily Turner's house for dinner, where Chris Maddox grilled us hamburgers. And we sat around the table talking and laughing, and I knew that I had nothing to worry about. It didn't matter where I went. My family was going to follow me. Last night, we had a young adult progressive dinner, and I sat around with that same crowd and all of our kids, and we watched them play together on the floor and rolling balls back and forth, and Mallory took her first couple of steps. And I knew that, again, we were right where we needed to be. And now not only do Brandon and I have this family, but Mallory has a family surrounding her as well. And I just look forward to a time in the future when Mallory sits down at dinner with, I don't know, Kate and Liam Hussey, James Schmidt, and they grill hamburgers for one another and talk and laugh, and we don't even have to be there, but I know that she has found her family as well.
My name is Kendra Holtzman, and I'm a newbie around here. I guess I'm the sort of the token new girl, since it's been such a joy to listen to the stories of those of you who have spent much longer at Grace Covenant than I have. But that being said, while a newbie, I have developed quite an affection for this place. And to understand that, I thought maybe I would share just a little bit about where I come from. I'm actually the daughter of 2 Presbyterian ministers, and all the craziness that implies. As I was growing up, I was part of a Presbyterian tradition that really took very seriously the idea of loving God not only with your heart and soul and strength, but with your mind. And in fact, struggling with questions of faith was really not a sign of my faithlessness, but in fact, it was affirmed as an indication of my connectedness and my engagement with God. I spent the last 7 or 8 years as a Methodist, actually, because in the various states where I was living, California and Texas and Oklahoma, the Presbyterian churches there didn't feel like the Presbyterian churches of my youth so much. And the irony is that I spent a little bit of time at Grace Covenant almost 20 years ago, right out of college, and that was about the last time that I remember the Presbyterian church feeling like the Presbyterian church of my youth, so it's sort of natural that I'm back. The question of welcome is a very large one for me, because in fact, in my recent history as a Methodist, it was the lack of welcome that I found in some of the Presbyterian churches that hurt, and that issue really came to a head in 2006 when I was sitting in a hotel bathroom with my then 7-year-old son, who very tearfully exclaimed, "You know, Mom, all that stuff that you told me about Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy and God, well, I'm not really sure that any of them exist, and I'm not sure that the Bible is true." So I was faced with a great bit of surprise, and I wasn't sure how to tackle that with a 7-year-old, and 9 years later, I'm still not sure exactly how to tackle it with a 16-year-old. But at Grace Covenant, we have found a place where questions are not to be feared, and I'm very grateful for that. Nor are those questions to be contemplated from an ivy tower in isolation from the needs of the world. Rather, I find that Grace Covenant is a place that seems to believe that questions about God are really best answered while relieving the suffering of his creatures. That confusion about God's nature is best addressed through the very clarifying acts of feeding the hungry, visiting the imprisoned, teaching a child to read, welcoming a stranger. that somehow elbow grease is the solution to paralyzing doubt. I think that this is a congregation that understands that even while we question, we have to teach. Even in our doubts, we have to serve. Even as we wonder about where we belong, we welcome the stranger to belong with us. And that welcome has been extended in spades to me, a twice divorced single mom, and to my precious child, both of whom are full of questions. And that welcome has taken many forms, from being noticed and warmly greeted on our first Sunday here, to being pursued as a choir member, a musician, a welcome team member, a greeter, you name it, a speaker on the 30th year celebration. And you know, speaking of music, did I mention music? For me, music is the ultimate language of welcome, and really no one does it better than Grace Covenant. So with that, as the new girl on the block, I just want to say how much I look forward to being a continuing part of the welcome in this very special place.